Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's exclusive analysis on natural gas and oil. Today we'll be touching base on the energy market and what these two commodities are currently signaling to us. Now starting off with the widowmaker natural gas. First off, what I want to bring to your attention is full disclosure, we are long natural gas, so take that with my bias being to the long side. You always want to know when someone's preaching an asset class, how are they positioned if they are positioned, because if someone has a bias to an asset class in the short term, you should just be careful and always do your own research. Now, with the price action in natural gas, basically what I'm seeing here on a technical basis, you have a beautiful downsloping wedge pattern. And notice how when you hit the bottom of this lower boundary wedge, which I'll just make a little bit bigger, you had a beautiful bounce and reversal candle. And now you've had a multi-day consolidation still holding within this original bullish reversal candle. So that is a short-term positive for the nat gas bulls. Now, even if you look at the long-term picture here, we've had this trend line connecting major pivot highs, your breakout zones, on our chart for quite a while. And it's finally looking like that trend line is beginning to hold and act as major support once again. Just like it did here, you pierced it, but had a beautiful reversal and then continuation move to the upside. The price action just got a little ahead of itself in the short term. And now this type of price action, believe it or not, this downsloping wedge pattern is a very higher probability bullish pattern that it does break to the upside. Now, you can see that we're not near the apex of the triangle. There still could be more consolidation to occur, maybe even a flush out to break this wedge and then trick investors out of their position. But ultimately, as long as you're chopping in this wedge, the probabilities do dictate that eventually you get a breakout to the upside. And that's what I think we're going to see in the near term for nat gas. So it was very interesting because on Friday, from my personal opinion, I warned my members, and it's like I said to them in our chat, our exclusive trading alert chat, that we were likely going to get a big move in a big directional move in the very near term. And one of the patterns I was watching intraday was simply if you draw this wedge pattern like this, connecting your main trend pivot lows, connecting the most amount of pivot points, and then you simply had this little bit of a flat top pattern over here. You could even have drawn it slightly to the upside, connecting more pivots like that. So you just kind of play around with it. But what I was seeing on a technical basis is you had that initial bullish move up, which caused natural gas to finish positive on the session, which is certainly good to see. But you were coiling, you were consolidating in this very tight range. And one thing I noticed, I remember giving the signal somewhere in around here that nat gas is going to have a big directional move in the very near term. And then it almost looked like it was going to rally to the upside. You had a break all the way to the upside, and then it just got rejected intraday off of a key resistance trend line. And then look, it forced you to break out to the downside on that failed pattern. Now, the short-term positive is that even if you look from Friday's price action, this is all intraday action, so a much smaller time frame. Definitely favors more of the traders, but it's just a little bit of an educational piece. This was really your big low, then you've had another couple lows over here. Then you've also had lows here which you broke, but your two big lows you've still managed to hold. And you're trying to make a series of higher lows, which is signifying the start of a down or an uptrend. So hopefully we can continue to build momentum on that, because we are long natural gas. And I do think this is just coiling in a bullish pattern right now, shaking out weak hands. And I do think it's more likely to break to the upside in the near term. And then analyzing just something from a technical moving average standpoint. Notice how the moving average during this decline, and this blue line is the 20 daily moving average. It's one that traders and investors should also be aware of, but it's more used for traders. So the 20 daily moving average, notice how it was in a clear downtrend with this epic collapse in natural gas. And then the final curvature and break of that massive downtrend, the degree of the downtrend, came off of this accumulation here, this breakdown, bounce, and recapture. And notice how you actually closed above the key 20 daily moving average for quite an extensive move over here, which caused it to really flatten out and stop it from going down. Now that we've basically shaken out the weak hands, I believe the next move is going to force natural gas to actually break above that, challenge this previous high here where there will be sellers present. I think we will eventually get through that. But I think instead of consolidating underneath the key moving average, you likely check below it and start consolidating basically above this key short-term moving average and then ready for the bigger move to the upside. So a little bit of a short-term trend analysis. Typically with these moving averages, you can start to identify little basing accumulation patterns. And from a technical standpoint, that is certainly what I'm observing in the near term. Now let's touch base on oil, shall we? So if I flip to the daily chart on oil, oil had an epic drop and then a beautiful reversal off of the lows. I mean, just take a look at this intraday volatility, and the markets are really notorious for doing that as of late. And I keep drawing the wrong tool on here, so forgive me, but oil had that massive drop, and then look at this epic rally on oil. Just pretty much recovered most of the losses from that move down. Now, oil still did finish negative on the session, so we have to remember it was a negative price action session, but a lot of buyers came up and stepped in to defend oil. With that understanding, why I think oil's saw buyers is because I think oil still has to retrace to this beautiful trend line break. You can see your multi large pivot zones over here, and this is your big breakdown. I want to see oil retrace, and then if oil can actually get back above this area, it stands a great shot to retest this high pivot range wedge pattern. Now that is not my base case, but it's certainly something that could happen. Now I'm looking on both ends of the oil trade. I don't really hold a bias. I do believe in the energy thesis long term, but timing is the critical thing that we traders have to be able to do, because it's going to maximize our portfolio gain and mitigate those losses. So I'm looking for definitely trades on the short side, and I'm looking for levels on the short side. My members know how I feel about the price action of oil in the coming basically weeks and months, and I think there's going to be great opportunities that lie in the near term. So on that note, thank you all for tuning into the energy analysis on the two base commodities, natural gas and oil. If you're interested in other trade alerts and more information, please feel free to send us a message, ask us any questions. We'll try to do our best to respond if we find that there's value in your questions for yourself and for the rest of the subscribers on this educational channel. On that note, thank you all and enjoy the rest of your weekend.